The year is 2063. Corporations rule the world with unlimited resources and a total domination over the government. America has been built into one single megacity where urban decay is everywhere, and whatever is old is built over and forgotten. And so it goes. The rich get richer, as the poor are left to rot away in their holes. In Lovac 2063, you play as a Lovac unit, an elite augmented cop made to complete the global police department's toughest tasks. Your character in particular is a Lovac named Sam Cooper, disillusioned with life in the police force. Operating in a world with seemingly no hope, Sam wades through the nights he works. After 12 years of killing, brutality and injustice, the last thing Sam wants is more blood on his hands. However, when receiving a call to the siege on the Grey Line Corporation's tower, it becomes apparent he might not have a choice. Because tonight, Sam won't only be forced to deal with his personal demons, but also unforeseen consequences. Hi there, I'm Cursed Emoji, the lead dev on Lovac 2063, and this is the March update to the mod. This time around we've decided that we have so much to show you that we really needed to make this a video form update. So, what's on the menu for today, you ask? Well, we'll be covering a multitude of things, such as brand new gameplay features, new weapons, levels, models, and general changes to the story. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, let's start with some new weapons. At the current time, we are working on primarily finishing the levels before dedicating more time to the weapons, but we have been tinkering on the side. In the game, some of the new things you'll find are a set of fists. When you're a cyborg, a crowbar seems a little obsolete, so we've created a brand new melee to show those enemies that just because you're not armed doesn't mean you're not dangerous. Next up, we have the kinetic energy displacement augmentation. In all reality, this is just a gravity gun reskin, a super gravity gun reskin to be exact, but the plans are in place to tweak some of the systems within it. Either way, we believe you'll have a ton of fun bludgeoning enemies to death using other enemies. Next on the list is the Riot Shotgun. By hearing all the good feedback on the shotgun from the alpha, we decided to bump up how enjoyable it is to use by doing away with the pesky pump after every shot. A crowd of enemies will tremble when you use this weapon. And finally, in the meantime, we have the Lock and Load Mark 60, with gameplay designed around a certain Demolition Man's weapon. No hints though. We've created the ultimate grenade launcher to deal with the tougher enemies on the battlefield. And that's all the weapons for now, but in the final product you can expect a set of weapons that each feel unique and fun to use. My dream is that the game can be 100% completed by favoring a single weapon, to get across the idea that players create their own playstyles based around their favorite weapon to use. Now that that's out of the way, I have a question for you. What is a weapon without stellar gameplay to go with it? To those who played the alpha, you would know that our augmented protagonist Sam Cooper is enhanced, and therefore has enhanced movement. However, we've been working hard to make the gameplay even more fluid with these brand new features. First up is Quick Melee, one of my favorites. If you're in a pinch with some close range enemies, pressing F will allow Sam to unleash a devastating punch before reverting back to his current weapon. Next up is Quick Grenade. Just like Half-Life 2's crowbar, the grenade is an option that I think players underutilize due to just how tedious it is to select a grenade, throw it, and revert back to the default weapon. Well, that problem will be solved in Lovac with the Quick Grenade feature. By pressing G, Sam will dip into what grenades he has in stock and throw them quickly before switching back to his default weapon. I'm sure you'll all find this helpful in the event you find an area too crowded by enemies, which will be pretty often. And finally, for our last feature today, we have saved the best. Inspired by Deus Ex and of course Doom, we have created a system never before seen in a Half-Life mod. After scoring 8 kills, Sam gains the ability to do a takedown on any humanoid enemy he wishes. Doing so restores Sam's health to full, and it is planned to return some ammo to the player. I'll hand it over to our lead programmer, Telvi, to explain.
Hello, my name is Telvi. I am one of the lead programmers for Lovac 2063. My role was implementing a number of mechanics and features included to the base mod. I've incorporated anything from custom weapons to custom NPCs, but my main focus was modifying the base vanilla mechanics of Half-Life 2. For Lovac 2063, we wanted to modify the base Half-Life 2 gameplay to be a lot more streamlined to emanate the visceral experience of playing as a genetically modified cyberpunk corporate agent, such as a quick melee and a quick grenade key for the player to utilize these two important utilities immediately. We also created a brash yet robust takedown system that performs a quick and seamless takedown animation of a targeted enemy, restoring player health on finish. In its current state, this specific feature works via a hard-coded system and a series of map logic that allows the player to perform a takedown animation via a melee hit on one of 3 enemy types. We plan to expand upon the system to utilize a meter buildup to allow the player to only perform a takedown once a number of kills have been stacked up.
Awesome stuff. It is really a point of pride for me, this feature in this mod, because you can make a mod and you can come up with all these ideas on what you're going to put in, and you're like, oh yeah, that would be really cool to put in a takedown system, but then to actually work on it, develop it, and get it in the game, that's just a whole new bag. So I'm really proud that we've managed to get it to this point, and you can expect it will be a hell of a lot more refined when the mod actually comes out. Now with that out of the way, we'll move on to models. Over the past few months, we've been working hard to bring the game into its own, with the help of Gear on Discord. With guidance from the dev team, he's really put together some impressive models for this mod. I've put together a showcase of all our notable inclusions. Next up, let's talk level design. Lovac has recently reached a milestone. Every single planned map in the game has been laid out and given basic geometry. All that remains is to texture, detail, and script them. On the maps that were already built for the alpha, all of them are undergoing remakes to detail them more thoroughly and convey the story in a much more engaging manner. This means you'll see segments in levels you've already played that are completely brand new, and levels that are longer, given better context, better textures, definitely better textures. And myself as a mapper have grown over the last few years since the alpha released, and my mapping's gotten a lot better. Not perfect, but still better. So you'll be seeing a lot more detailed maps, and it will just be overall a better experience. But what's a level without music? And honestly, the continued version of the game is really focused on that arena combat. People seemed to love it in the alpha, so we are fully leaning into that. And with these new gameplay additions, it's given me a lot of ideas on how arenas can be handled. One of the problems I had in the main release game is that you'd have this really cool gunfight, and then you'd have to go listen to like 5 or 6 minutes of straight dialogue. And that is something I really want to avoid. So one thing we're actually doing to mitigate that is what we're going to do for the CEO file ripper logs, which, if you remember when you played the alpha, was when you would listen to a kind of audio log that the CEO has recorded, and it's relevant, you'll see why. But what we're planning to do is, instead of you just sitting there listening to it like in something like BioShock, we're going to have it so you get transported into what he's describing. So you'll take control of Chester Young, the CEO, during that point of his life. But what is a level without music? What's a fight without a beat to go along with it? Nothing. The answer is absolutely nothing. Music plays such a large role in Lovac. It tells you how to feel, what's going on, you get into the groove of it. It's a real flow, and you're gonna love it. And the main man behind all this music, Surgical Ash, is gonna tell you all about it right now.
Hey, so, I was assigned to do the music for this pretty unique Half-Life mod, and for it is unique, so should its music. I mean, at least for a Half-Life mod, right? So at first, when this project was in its baby steps, Kirstimoji had asked me to make this real synth-wavy but also dark soundtrack for it, which at the time, I had no experience on whatsoever. In spite of that, I tried to fulfill his request and made this real nice soundtrack for the alpha. Did it go well? For consensus, I guess, yeah, but me? Heck no. I was extremely uncomfortable trying to make it work, watching tutorials all day, how to make this, how to make that, how to make that, yada yada yada, but in the end, I did something that plays them, and hopefully everybody else who played and listened to the soundtrack, I hope. But that was 2 years ago, and who cares about all those old times, right? So, in the meantime, I wasn't doing music for the mod. I started making dubstep and got very, very into Doom. And when I came back to the mod, that gave me a lot of inspiration for a new and improved, say, sound scheme. Still keeping the retro cyberpunk aesthetic, but giving an underlying dark tone with extremely distorted basses that eventually take over, and the touch of an orchestra that accentuates through the mod depending on how our dear Sammy boy feels at the moment. So like, think the atmosphere of Doom, but the evil energy isn't being channeled through hell, it's just simply the sound of the future. Hell, I even made my own version of Mick Gordon's Doom instrument for it, and it's been such an adventure trying to figure out just one synth by itself. I've been working on it for what, like a year, 2 years? Yeah, let alone an entire soundtrack. Just doing that was really hard. And I hope to make some videos explaining some of my dirty secrets on my YouTube channel for those curious ones who also make music when the mod is finally out. Yeah, the last few months I've been remaking the entire soundtrack have been so fun, and I hope you will also feel the same way as I do with the music throughout your time with the mod. And with that, Ash is off. Goodbye.
I don't know if it's egotistical to say this, but I honestly sometimes work out to the soundtrack of Lovac. Anyway, moving on. Finally, for our last part of the March update, we will discuss the story. A big advantage that Lovac has had over other media, other mods, other games, literally anything, is that we've got a lot of time to develop this. We've had 2 years at this point to develop the story, and we discussed it, and we've had time to really evolve it. If the full story had been released with the alpha, you would be playing a very different game to the one we're going to release. Not in the storyline sense, none of that's really changed, but it's more in the depth sense. I've worked very hard with the storyline consultant and writer, Cosmonaut Kane, to write a script that empowers the player while deeply enthralling them within the dreamscape-like world of Lovac. These story changes run as deep as the voice acting. Many of the voices you will hear in the full release will be different from the alpha, thanks to the feedback and the time we've had to figure out exactly who we want these characters to be. Now before we wrap up today, we will touch on a subject I think many of you will be wondering about. When the hell is this project coming out? Now it'd be easy for me to throw out a deadline and work to that, however, I'm not comfortable with putting out a release date until all of the levels are done. And not fully done, obviously when they're fully done, that's the game pretty much complete. But what I'm saying is I want the levels to be a level of detail where I'm happy that, all I want to do is put the finishing touches on it, And even if you feel that is an empty answer, I can tell you Lovac has been working to a program. And if all goes to plan, Lovac 2063 should be ready to go maybe mid-April. However, in the coming months, as we move closer to the finish line, I'll share my thoughts on how realistic those dates are. And that wraps up our March update. Thank you very much for watching. I would say something sappy like, I couldn't do it without you guys, or I wouldn't be a mod without you guys, but I'll be honest, even if no one played this mod, I'd still make it. But it still means the world to me that you take the time out of your day to check up on the mod and eventually play it. So, thank you very much for staying updated, and stay tuned for more.